Hello everyone, welcome to episode 18 of the LDG Experience podcast. Tom, Pete, how are you guys today?
Fantastic.
Good.
I am really good, actually. Yeah, I got a lie in. I shouldn't have done. I got a lie in.
To be fair, it's okay. I got one too.
Yeah,
I'm happy.
I thought today was Friday. It is not.
No.
And therefore we had a lie in that we shouldn't have had.
Yeah.
So we're running a little bit late, but other than that, absolutely fantastic. Yes, things are falling into place, so it's good. How is the stream going, Pete?
I had to take some time off.
Oh no.
Sadly, yeah. You wanted it to be weeks ago, but so it's fine. So I should be back to normal now. But I've had to take some time off just because I've been trying to get some projects finished and still recovering from from staying up to 4:30 in the morning.
That's what you get for watching both nights of WrestleMania.
Yeah, but it was awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, no, I'm back to it normally. I should be back to normal as of time of listening.
Listening, yes.
So we're back to my usual ways of streaming on Onyx Dragon Gaming on Twitch, Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Lord knows what we're painting at this point. Could be anything.
Could be anything.
Could be literally anything. Could be a plastic Spitfire, could be gas gold Thraka, could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, this episode is literally 4 weeks from now.
Yeah, exactly.
This episode won't come out from... So it's Onyx Dragon Gaming on Twitch.
Indeed.
Facebook.
Yes, to Facebook.
YouTube,
Instagram, which I need to work out how to work. And we're there, but I just don't know how it works. So I just kind of scream at it and then don't do anything.
You exist on Instagram.
Yeah.
Twitter, are you on X?
I am on X, yes.
You link it up to Facebook and...
Then let that do it.
I will learn.
You can link Facebook and Instagram, and then you post on one. You post on Facebook with the click that says also post on Instagram, and it does both at the same time.
I'll have to learn how to do that.
Yeah, that's really
way
clever.
too much. I'm too busy putting paints on models to learn how to do text things.
So yeah,
It's okay. I created a monster at FazPack this week because I explained analytics and how you can track your Facebook analytics to
Faz of
FazPack.
Yeah.
Desperately checking.
Yeah, now he's fallen down an analytics rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's it. Down that road, madness lies.
So yeah, so if you want to follow Pete, you find him on Onyx Dragon Gaming on all good social medias. We are, of course,
some bad ones too.
And some bad ones as well. We are on Lazy Dragon Gaming. You can find us on all of those platforms, including Twitch, where we stream twice a week currently. It's technically 4 times a week, but it's on the same days. So Evie does the Naughty Knitter, LD Gaming Live on Twitch. If you want the links, you can find them on Facebook on the Lazy Dragon Gaming Facebook page. Yep. And I am the Alley Cat because my name is Tom. Makes sense. Yep.
I get it. I understood that reference.
And I stream Lorcana twice a week on Pixelborn. So if you want to come along and have a game, I am happy to play against viewers. I do it all the time, and I play the ladder occasionally, and I am moderately okay at the game.
Aggressively average.
I am aggressively average at the game, so that's good. We also, coming soon, actually, which will be already up by the time this goes live, will be some VODs, because myself and a bunch of the guys are all off to the store championships for Lorcana, and I'll be recording some VODs for that. So we're going to... Where are we going? We're going to Chester. I don't know what the game store, Athena Gaming, I think it might be in Chester. I'm not sure, but whichever store it is in Chester, I'm sorry, I will give you some promotion when we're and then we're going to Lazy Dragon Gaming's own, which is held at AJTCG in Preston. I'm going to 7 City Collectibles in Nottingham, which is owned by my good friend Barney, who won't be there because he only works weekdays apparently, the lazy sod. But if you are listening, Barney, get some work done, mate. Everybody would appreciate it. But yeah, I'm going there, so he'll be getting some promotion. And we're going to Fanboy 3, which is owned by Dave Salisbury in Manchester, so we're all going there as well. So me and Adam are off to Nottingham. It's a bit of a 2-hour drive, but yeah, we're going to go see my good friend Barney and his store. I've never been, so that'll be new and unique. So yeah, so check that out on YouTube's and Facebook Lives, because that's what we'll be doing. We're doing some Facebook Lives and stuff as well, so keeping everybody up to date on what's going on.
Way more techie than me.
Yeah, way more techie. It's on my phone and I press go live and then end.
True. That's literally how I do it. Somebody explains it to me and I go, what button do I press? And then I go, that one. Alright, cool.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, so if you want to check us out, LD Gaming Live on Twitch, Lazy Dragon Gaming everywhere else, you can get your pre-orders in. Evie's been spending a lot of time getting our website up to date and all new and shiny. And at some point, there will be a Garskul Mag Uruk Thraka available for to purchase on our website, painted by Pete.
Yes, it will be done on stream.
It will be done on stream, so you can
watch.
This. Yeah, hopefully by this time. But if not, it will be there at some point. Yes. So yeah, so you'll be able to follow the painting process, and then if you wish, you can purchase the model.
Indeed,
will be lovely. Today we are on our second part of the Gods of Chaos.
Indeed.
So last week, which was our last episode, was Khorne, the first Chaos God.
Yes.
We are today going to be covering
the last,
the Slaanesh, the She Who Thirsts. the Prince of Pleasure, the Dark Prince, and the Lord of Excess.
Yes.
The most recent and the newest of the chaos of the 4 Chaos Gods.
In 40k
lore terms,
specifically.
Yeah. Now, a bit of a warning in advance of some of the things we're going to be talking about. Because of whom we are talking about, there will be references, but not deep insights into things of a sexual and painful and addictive nature. So, if any of that causes you any anxieties, please spin on past it or don't listen. Whatever.
Come join us next week.
Come join us next week for either Zinch or Nurgle.
Yes.
But yeah, we're not going to go a deep dive into it. We won't be using any sort of deep stuff. But if it is a problem, then bear that in mind. With that said, we said that Slaanesh is the youngest of the Chaos Gods.
Yes.
Slaanesh came to full awareness and self-awareness during the 30th millennium, and we're currently in the 42nd. So
so it's kind of this is specifically in the 40k lore side of it rather than fantasy.
Yes.
Is the event the Eldar referred to as the Fall.
Yes, we do need to cover a little bit of Eldar first, don't we?
Yes,
to get the full thing. So after the war in heaven,
which was against the Satan, which
and
was the Old Ones and the Satan fighting each other.
Yeah. So that was basically a no-score draw, really.
They kind of were like, well, we'll come back and do this again at some point.
Yeah.
Like horrific weaponry being unleashed. Things like the Blackstone fortresses were created during this war. Wraith constructs as well. Yeah. All sorts of horrific things.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this happens, and then the war happens between the Necrontyr and as proxies for the Satan, and the Eldar who are proxies for the Eldar Old Ones. Both the Satan kind of, some of them die and some of them go away. The Old Ones we don't really know what.
No, the Old Ones are really sort of vague in 40k.
Yeah, because they're also like, we're not sure whether the Old Ones are actually the gods of the Eldar or whether the gods of the Eldar are also a separate thing. Yeah, it's
a bit strange. There is so basically the war in heaven is sort of ends when the Necrontyr sort of rebel. It fully ends when they rebel against the Titan and break them apart. But they've done so much damage to the Old Ones that the Old Ones' power has completely sort of waned.
So they kind of leave the galaxy. Or and then maybe, who knows?
They get hit with the is that not they get hit with the Enslaver plague and that finishes them off? Is that a thing? So from what I've heard and read in various things, as the war is ending, the Enslaver plague, which is essentially a type of demon, whether this is still canon or not, I don't know, and they basically finish off the Old Ones. As whether they finish off all the Old Ones, it's not said, but that is essentially where the war in heaven ends. So the Necrontyr, the Necrons now have all gone to sleep, and they've broken up the Catan and imprisoned them all, and the Old Ones have either been wiped out.
The final battle is the Nightbringer versus Cain.
Yes.
And this is where Cain gets shattered into his fragments, which become the avatars at the heart of each craft world.
Right, I think they might have changed that now.
Yeah.
Because I think now Cain fights Slaanesh and breaks up. Yeah. So this is where 40k lore can be a little bit wibbly because they change bits of it over time. So it's worth noting that originally I think that was the case, but now in current lore I think it happens a bit later on when he fights against Slaanesh. Yeah. So the Eldari are now more or less at peace. Essentially.
Yeah, and they do the usual thing of being the preeminent civilization in the galaxy and kind of just move in.
Yep, they are by far the most numerous.
Yeah, they use the webway that the Old Ones established and move it around. They obviously have thousands and thousands of worlds all over the galaxy. They traverse the stars in massive trade ships known as craft worlds,
which are above planet-sized.
They can. Well, they're not planets. They're probably continent size.
Continent size.
Yeah, they're huge. They're not like planet size, but they are very, very big. Yeah. Yeah, they are literally just like these ridiculous because they can have like docks at the back for like fleets of other starships. Yeah. But these are the ships they use to traverse the various planets and things.
Yeah, they go out trading and exploring.
Yeah, hence the name craft worlds.
Yeah, they go into the galaxy and find new places.
Yeah. And then the nobility of the Eldar race kind of start getting a bit bored.
Yes.
And keep looking for new ways to have fun. Inside the webway there are various port cities, the most famous of which is Comorra.
Yes.
And this in the way of all sorts of places throughout space and time, starts becoming a place where people go to find maybe something that's a little bit more kinky, or the drugs that are a little bit more powerful, or basically any vice you can think of. It starts becoming to the point where, like all hedonists, they just start getting to a point where like the high's not as good as it once was, so we're just going to keep pushing further and further down the road of debauchery and depravity.
This is about the time when I believe they are referred to as the cults of pleasure start to take hold within the Eldari. Within the Eldar Empire.
Yeah.
The cults of pleasure... Now, they with them being Eldar and the way they work, cults of pleasure can be anything from aggressive knitting, which it can be, where they're sort of stabbing themselves with the needles because basic knitting isn't enough anymore, but they want to...
making funny patterns on the wall.
Funny patterns on the wall and stuff.
Yeah.
To actual, like, sex pits.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, anything that you can enjoy. Like, literally, there could be aggressive model makers who are who end up using, like, finger bones of children or something.
Yeah, and all of that where they're...
this is like we're talking, like, when we start going down...
I mean, this does actually happen because, like, real-world example, a few years ago...
Yes.
10 years ago, there was a woman who was part of the free bleeding movement.
Yeah, she was definitely a cult of Slaanesh member. The cult of pleasures basically start to spread throughout the Eldari Empire.
Yeah, it's still it's mostly limited to the main sort of top end of society at this point.
Yes.
Most of the nobility, the big powerful houses and things. Yeah. And like I said, it starts not conglomerating, but like Camorra is one of the places it's at its strongest.
Yes.
Anyway, this cart starts building, and obviously the Eldar being a quite powerful psychic race, all of these emotions are even stronger, strongly being reflected in the warp.
Yeah, it's important to note that the Eldar are the psychic
are probably one of the most psychically powerful
and therefore when they're doing anything, as we mentioned when we talked about Khorne last week, when you do something in the real world, it has a reflection in the immaterium, in the warp, and it manifests. And because the Eldar, unlike the Tau, for example, had it been the Tau, it would have taken even longer.
No one would have mattered because they don't have any kind of presence.
Yeah, they don't really have it. So if this was reversed and the Tau were the ones doing it, no one would have noticed. But
as we start getting towards as this is starting to get more and more prevalent, there are a few Eldar who rebel against this.
Yes.
They're like, we shouldn't be doing this, we should be more disciplined about what we do in our lives. And a lot of them sort of decided they could almost see what was coming.
Yeah.
So they were like, right, well, we're going to relocate onto these craft worlds, and we're going to sort of more dedicate ourselves to the discipline. And this was the only thing that was keeping Slaanesh back at the point. Right. It was trying to manifest itself, but these disciplined Eldar were the last sort of vestiges of sort of the locks on it. But yeah, these people recognised that, oh no, something bad's about to go down if we keep going down this path. So they kind of say, well, we're going to split, we're going to leave, and we're going to, because the heart of, this is the other thing, is like the heart of the Eldar Empire was under a particularly important place in galactic history.
Yes.
So anyway, they leave, and this kind of them leaving kind of takes the brakes off.
Yeah.
Because they were the last few voices of restraint, and this kind of pushes everything a bit too far. And the centre of the Eldar Empire, effectively, as it eventually, Slaanesh finally gets enough power together, coalesces into a being, and its birth cries rip open a hole in space and time, which will become known as the Eye of Terror.
Which is significantly important throughout the course of history.
Yes. So this particular place is where the centre of the Eldar are. And as I said, this is where the birth pangs of Slaanesh are felt in the mortal realm. So that just shows you, and this happened sort of around M30. This is the reason why in Imperial history, Old Night falls, why there's a ridiculous amount of warp storms everywhere, and the nascent Imperial Empire is all cut off from everywhere.
Yeah. So at this point in Imperial history, humankind has spread out quite well.
We've had our big technological...
Yes.
The golden age of technology has happened.
Yep.
We've spread amongst the stars whilst the other are busy, doing terrible things to each other.
Yep.
We've kind of spread out and started creating our own empire. And then Slaanesh gets birthed, and our major means of travel and communication gets completely shut down.
Yep.
As sort of warp storms just tear across the galaxy.
Psychers go nuts.
A lot of worlds fall, and humanity's kind of cut off everywhere, and this is the birth of what is now known as Old Night, and this is where the Emperor kind of goes, okay, shit, I've actually got to step up and do something about this. I can't watch from the shadows anymore.
No.
I need to take charge.
It also stems the old night is the human race not really knowing that this was Slaanesh.
Yeah.
They blame psychers.
Which is also true.
Yeah.
Partly. And that is part of the Emperor's thing, is that he realises that the human race is becoming more psychic, and now, because his whole thing is he's been around since, like, pre-Babylonian, like, of human history. Like, he's literally, like, one of the things that I get, coming back to my boy, the Emperor, is that I love the idea that he's out there now.
Yeah.
Like, he's always been out there.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's the guy that, he's never the big named, like, heroes of history, but he's the guy behind that hero who's going, maybe you shouldn't nuke all of humanity. Like, maybe you shouldn't do this thing that will lead the world. Like, he will let. He's not like God in the sort of capital God who will say, the whole thing of like, oh, why does evil happen? He's like, he understands that humanity's going to be shitty to each other, but his goal is not to make one group of humans better than another. It's just to make sure that humanity exists overall.
Given that we are currently in what would be M12.
Well, technically M12, but it's M2. They refer to it in their calendar.
Yeah, so we are currently in M2.
Yeah.
And the Emperor has been around since.
We've had, like, nudges of what things he may have done. Like, one of my favourites is a little thing where he was St. George.
Yes, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, he was St. George. He slew the dragon, and the dragon was actually a shard of a Catan. And he then buried it on Mars, as knowing that in the future, that Mars would become the nascent cradle for the cult of the Omnissiah. And he set all that up, knowing that eventually he would use knowledge gained from the body of the dragon to start making technology.
Yeah.
So it's like, I love that whole thing. It's like, St. George, he's a folk hero, he's a thing people have heard about, but it's like, he's not like a massively prominent historical figure. But anyway, so the Emperor keeps he's always been behind the scenes, just making sure we don't completely wipe each other out. You can imagine he was quite busy during the Cold War.
Yep.
Just quietly nudging people. Like,
don't press that button, Boris.
He's probably, like, advising Kennedy or making sure that Khrushchev didn't do anything really silly. And I like that idea. But when it comes to the sort of the fall of Old Night, he's like, right, humanity's now becoming he's starting to become more and more psychically active. This will be our downfall. I can't sit on the sidelines anymore. And it's also now so dispersed that I can't let it happen everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm now, I have to take charge.
Yeah.
And that's when he becomes the Emperor.
Yeah.
Is that he's like, right, okay, this is when I'm going to start uniting terror and all these plans. Like, because he knew this was going to come eventually, but this is when he finally had to step up and be like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah. So in the 42nd millennium, of course, the mistrust of psychers, this is where that stems from.
Yeah, because it is legitimate reason. Yeah. Like you said before, like chaos, they are conduits for chaos to come through, and this was part of the Emperor's goal, was to connect to the Old One's webway, because it's part of the thing. One thing that the Eldar did have over everyone was they had access to the webway, which meant they didn't have to travel through the warp directly.
Yeah, the big plan was always to hack into the webway.
Yeah, that's literally what the Golden Throne was for, was to hack into the webway from Terra, so that we could move around the galaxy without having to use warp travel.
Yeah.
Because we know of two methods of intergalactic travel, or interstellar travel it should be, we know exist that are outside the warp. There is the Eldar's Webway network, and there is the Necrontier's Dolmen Gates, which has never really been elaborated on, but we know they have a network of something called Dolmen Gates, which allows them to move from planet to planet.
They have them in like monoliths, right? They open them.
That's part of it. They're part of the teleport, but like they have like really big Dolmen Gates.
Really big.
Allow them to move around their own empire.
Yeah. Which is, and that will definitely have nothing to do with the warp, because the
that's
Necrons.
literally antithesis of it. Yeah. But anyway, back to Slaanesh.
Yeah, so
Slaanesh is born.
Yes.
And it's all like,
and the Eye of Terror opens.
Yes.
And millions and millions and billions of Eldar die. And their souls are devoured by Slaanesh.
Which is where Slaanesh gains their nickname, the She Who Thirsts.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing about Slaanesh, is he's probably more relevant now, is that Slaanesh is ironically probably the flag bearer for gender fluidity.
Yes.
Because the whole point is that Slaanesh has always been not even gender neutral, it's like all genders. At all possible times.
Yes.
So you see what you want to see.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's part of the suite of mutations that tend to happen if you are a follower of Slaanesh, is you will gain sexual characteristics, either more of the gender you have, or some of the other of a gender you are not.
Yeah.
So
it's where it.
So we'll probably interpret the pronouns for Slaanesh should be they them.
They them.
But they are at various points in both time and history, like they usually refer to as like the Prince of Pleasure, or like I said, she who's first. So it's very interchangeable because Slaanesh is themselves very interchangeable.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing with the Eldar souls is that so not only is it the original souls that feed Slaanesh as they're being born, but then it's now because they're linked because the Eldar race is linked to Slaanesh because of this.
Yeah.
That whenever any Eldar now dies, their soul is immediately consumed by Slaanesh. Now, there are ways around this. One, which the Dark Eldar realise later on when they pop back up, is that if you don't die, it's fine.
Yep. As long as you don't die, you should be okay.
But not just that, because the other thing is that your soul is slowly eaten away by Slaanesh. If you
it's important to know that while you're alive, you're slowly being consumed by Slaanesh.
If you live the life of a Dark Elder, in which case where you don't care and you just have no restrictions on anything you do.
Yep.
So the Dark Elder realise that they can placate Slaanesh by effectively feeding pain and soul energy of other people. So they consume the pain and grief and things of other sentient life as a way to sort of keep their souls topped up.
Yeah.
So as it's slowly being withered away by Slaanesh. They also make sure that they can never die. There's a whole
Well, they are what's left of the cults of pleasure, right? More or less.
Some of them, They're also the remnants of the original noble houses.
Yeah. There's various things, mostly in Camorra, but there are some other places, and they are essentially not all, but some are what's left of the original cults of pleasure.
Yeah.
And the homunculus covens.
Yes.
Are they the ones I'm thinking of? The flesh crafters.
Yes.
They are the ones that are the oldest, from what I've been...
Some of them are, There's still some of the older families and things.
Yeah.
Because we can go into it when we do an episode of Dark Eldar, but one of the things I do like is that, like, if you're a basic Dark Eldar warrior, before you go out into fighting, you might cut one of your toes off.
Yes.
Leave it with a homunculus. This is because if you die, they can regrow you from that toe, and your soul will come back into that vessel because it's still you. So you're not technically a clone; it's still the same body. This is why you find that when Dark Eldar get killed in battle, like that, if they've got good enough friends who are genuine friends, they might just hack a bit off to take back with them to make sure you get allowed to come back.
Yep.
So that's their method of keeping themselves free from Slaanesh. The Eldar Exodites, who live kind of rustic lives, sort of semi-rustic lives, herding dinosaurs on various old Eldar planets. Think of them as sort of like rural farm folk of the Eldar, but they have a world spirit. So the planets they live on have a world spirit, to which whenever they die, their soul kind of gets absorbed into this world spirit, so it becomes kind of a big collective thing.
Okay.
The Craft World Eldar have a similar thing on their Craft Worlds called the Infinity Matrix. So all Craft World Eldar wear spirit stones. So you see it on all the models of the Eldar, they've always got at least one usually a big oval gemstone, usually around the sort of throat area or on the chest. If they die, their soul is captured by the spirit stone. So it's made so it doesn't go to Slaanesh. And then if they can make it back to the Craft World, that spirit stone is then sort of put into an area which is called the Infinity Matrix, and it sort of joins with the rest of the spirits of the dead in a kind of semi-limbo, because they can be taken out to be used for things. It's regarded as quite a dark thing to do. But sometimes, like Iandan's a good example. When they were being attacked by the Tyranids, most of their guys got killed, so they had to end up making lots of using them to power a lot of Wraith constructs, just so they could survive.
Yeah, so things like your Wraith Lords... Wraith Guard, sorry.
Basically anything with the word Wraith in the front of it.
They are essentially powered by a Soul Stone.
Yes, or multiple.
Multiple.
Yeah, one of the cool things is like some of the Titans, they've only got one living crewman, but they might also be crewed by several spirits of the dead who operate the weapons and things. Yeah,
some craft worlds make good use of this quite often.
But they're also shunned a little bit by the others.
And a lot of the others, however, only do it in
very much
dire
last
resort
But that's how the Eldar keep themselves kind of safe-ish from Slaanesh.
And there is one last group of Eldar that we will discuss very quickly before we move on. And they are the Harlequins, and they are followed by... Oh, so they follow the only living... sorry, not the only one, but one of the few living Eldar gods. Because when Slaanesh was birthed, the Eldar gods en masse were like, oh shit, let's get something done about that. And they mostly got defeated and killed. There's only
three sort of Eldar gods that are kind of around.
Yep.
We've got Cain, who is... shattered and forms the basis of the Avatar.
Yep.
That is literally the Avatar of Cain. We have Kegarach, who is hidden somewhere. He's always out there hiding. You can usually hear his laughter and things when things go...
My favourite of the Eldar gods.
Yes, and then you have Enaid, who is the god of the dead, who has been relatively recently kind of...
Semi-brought back.
There was a prophecy that when enough Eldar had died and souls didn't go to Slaanesh, that Enaid would be powerful enough to arise and kill Slaanesh, but they kind of prematurely brought that about.
Yeah, that was Eldrad, wasn't it, that did that?
Maybe?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I think he was involved in it, but I don't know if he... Yeah. But
anyway,
well,
he was started the ritual...
That was one of those storylines that they've kind of quietly not done anything with.
So from what I know of the story, basically, Eldrad Uthwan was basically said, we can do this ritual now, enough of us have died, we can bring Enaid, and Enaid will kill Slaanesh. And the council and the council of Eldar were like, okay, what will happen when this happens? And he went, well, maybe all the Eldar die. Yeah. And they were like, no, don't do that. He was like, but we beat Slaanesh. And it's like our last big thing is, although we all die, Slaanesh also
we'll take
dies.
Out our greatest failure.
And they were like, no, we don't want that. No. So he went off and did it anyway. Yeah. But he got noticed by the Death Watch.
Yes.
And the Death Watch were like, what's that pointy-eared bugger up to over there? He seems to be doing a massive warp ritual.
This can't be good.
This can't be good. So they went storming in and stopped it.
Yeah.
And that kind of left the door, like, half open for Enaid to come through.
This is where Yvraine and the...
Yeah, and that's where that story that happens around the time of the fall of Cadia, where the god appears in Camorra, and everything goes catastrophic. We'll talk about that some other time. But and that is that god, the new one, but there is one other.
Yeah.
There is one other god, and she is in Nurgle's garden.
Oh, yes.
Now, I can't remember her name.
That's Lilith.
Is it Lilith or something like that?
The moon goddess.
The moon goddess, the goddess of life, the goddess of healing, and all this.
I know what she's called Lilith in obviously fantasy.
Yes, but she is a prisoner. Yes. When Slaanesh was birthed, all the gods were being killed and eaten by Slaanesh. Cain obviously stood forth and was going toe to toe. Aisha. So
Aisha is the Eldari goddess of fertility, healing, and nature.
Yes.
And she is imprisoned in Nurgle's crumbling mansion at the mercy of her grotesque admirer.
Yes. So Nurgle, who we will talk about in the future, has taken a fancy to Aisha a long time ago. And when Slaanesh was birthed, Nurgle was like, ooh, now's my chance. And nipped in and grabbed her before Slaanesh could kill her and bunged him in the garden near the cauldron. And what he does is while he is sort of obsessed with her...
Yes, because actually this brings back to the Spirit Stones, because I believe this is what the Spirit Stones are referred to as the Tears of Aisha.
Yes, that's correct. So Nurgle tests his diseases and poisons upon her. But what that lets her do... Because she obviously can heal them, she's a god, and most of the Eldar still believe in her, she obviously survives. And then he's like, that works, awesome, let's spread that across the galaxy, that's fantastic. And what she does is she whispers into the ether the cure, because she obviously knows how to do it, that's what she does, she's goddess of healing. She whispers the cure into the galaxy, and Nurgle doesn't know this. So she is responsible in a way.
Someone going, you know what? This is good. Maybe if we wash our hands, we won't necessarily get the plague.
Yeah, like, or if we mix this blue liquid with this green liquid and get this other liquid, then we would. Oh look, we've cured it! Yay! Yeah. How about a vaccine to do? All that sort of thing. That is her, and that's what she does. So while she is not in the best of states, what she does and where she is vitally important. But I'm going to stop there because we're going to come back to that when we do Nurgle. So I've done enough on her, but she is alive. So
we'll talk quickly about the Harlequins. Yes,
the Harlequins.
They're followers of Kegarak, and their souls are pledged to Kegarak.
Yes.
Their spirit stones end up going to him.
Yes.
With the exception of one member of the troop. So the Harlequins are responsible for telling the stories of... They are wandering troopers and players, and they are responsible for going around both Camorra and the Craft worlds and the Exile worlds, all of these things, and effectively making sure that Eldar know their histories and things. Now, these performances go a little bit beyond just, hey, here's a stage with some backdrops on. This is like, there are like psychic active things going on and various things like projections and all sorts. These are real deep dives. Now, various members of the troop are destined to play certain roles. So, for example, the Death Jester, obviously, is the incarnation of death. He represents the Nightbringer in the story of the War in Heaven. And there are various... The Shadow Seer is usually the one directing the story. He's the one, using psychic power to influence the crowd's reactions and create phantasms and all sorts of things. And then there is one member of the troupe who is known as the Solitaire. Now, the Solitaire stands apart from all other Harlequins because their soul is basically is effectively sacrificed to Slaanesh. So they play Slaanesh in anything that involves Slaanesh, and because of that, they do not wear a spirit stone. They do not have any connection to anybody else. They know that when they die, their soul will be consumed by Slaanesh. They're also arguably the most powerful of the Harlequins.
Yes, quite scary.
The whole thing is to look upon a Solitaire without their consent even is to invite a fate worse than death. If you were to touch a Solitaire by accident, you're basically not condemned yourself, but your entire line to damnation. They are both revered and reviled as obviously the manifestation of Slaanesh amongst the Harlequins. So
anybody who's ever used one on the tabletop battlefield will know or experience one I
remember, I think back in second edition, one of my favourite rules they used to have was they could do one game was called the Blitz attack, where they would charge into combat, but they would get extra attack for every inch of the charge they did not use.
Yes.
So the idea was to get them as close as humanly possible and then charge, because this is back when everyone had a 12-inch charge move, so you'd be like, I'm 1 inch away from you, I get an extra 11 attacks. And just mince whatever you're going
to. I know I had one in my Eldar army, but I never got to play with it, I never got the chance to play with it.
So in 8th edition, I think it was, when the Harlequins really got their... 7th, sorry. They got the codex in that, but in 8th they became good. And the Solitaires in them, when you set them up at one side of the board, and they covered the entire side of the board and took out your warlord because hell, they were powerful.
Yes.
And they could move, and they were scary. And I heard a lot of groans from people being like, how did you do that? What happened? Because but if you looking upon an unmasked Solitaire is to invite death, and I would not like to know what happens if you touch one. So,
but that's the Eldar's relationship to Slaanesh,
and it's very important. Now, to say in fantasy that doesn't exist. In fantasy,
in fantasy there is obviously another close tie. But it's a whole different relationship.
Yes.
And quite a twisted one at that.
Yep.
So in fantasy, Slaanesh is just another of the Chaos Gods. The cults of pleasure are still a thing. In fact, they are something that has plagued the High Elves of Ulthuan for millennia. The original cult establishment of the cults of pleasure were headed up by Anarian's second wife, Morathi, who you may have.
I might have heard of that name.
Yes.
Is she important?
Yes, just somewhat. One of her big problems is that she is a follower of the cult of pleasure.
Yeah.
She is quietly in charge of it in Dark Elf Society, which is... The cult of pleasure is kind of an underground thing in Dark Elf Society. They're more obviously their primary god is Cain, but there are still a lot of nasty sex times. It is in fantasy. It is more related to sort of drugs and sex.
Yes, and bathing in blood, and they do a lot of that.
That's more of a twisted. That kind of comes in the sort of her role as between being both the High Priestess of Cain and the Cults of Blood.
Oh, okay.
Because she was the first one to bring out the Cauldrons of Blood and be like, hey, if you bathe in this Cauldron of Blood, you become more youthful and stuff, and like me. And then she sort of gave it to the rest of the hags of the Cult of Cain, and it's not quite as effective as it is for her, surprisingly.
What a shock.
I know, right? This is where her big, antithesis between her and Helebron, who is the, stated leader of the cult of Cain, stems from. In the, there's a big, festival every year in Dark Elf Society where loads of people get murdered in the streets. If you're in the streets after a certain time, you get murdered, and your blood is then added to these cauldrons, and all the hags bathe ritually that night, and it renews them. But obviously throughout the year, they get progressively, their outer self matches their inner self. And Helebron's not very happy about this because Morathi seems to be, maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Slaanesh.
Yeah.
So the cult of pleasure has been a thing that's kind of waxed and waned throughout Dark Elf Society over the years. In the original Storm of Chaos book, you could have a Dark Elf Cult of Pleasure list, so it was like a combined sort of Dark Elf and Slaaneshi demon army.
Right.
Which was a cool thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
But there's also one of the more powerful cult. So the greater demon of Slaanesh is known as the Keeper of Secrets, which is usually some kind of androgynous being with its sort of standard form is almost a slightly bull-headed, four-armed and cloven-hooved.
Very lithe.
Very lithe. Two of the arms tend to be long pincer-type claws, and two of the arms are human-ish. But yeah, one of the most famous of them in fantasy is a demon called Nakari, who was one of the 4 demons that opposed Anarion in his final battle, defending the vortex that Caledor Dragontamer was trying to set up.
Yes.
And throughout then, it's become known as the Bane of the Line of Anarion, because it's him that ends up, when we talk about Tyrion Teclis, this is the great demon, the Keeper of Secrets, that nearly killed Tyrion and the Everqueen when they were hiding in the forest.
Ah, yes, I remember that. Yeah,
it's been one that's been, but basically the Witch King occasionally summons and sets upon.
They are now in 40k, I think.
Nakari isn't.
No. What's
I've been really hoping
one
to.
in 40k, I'm sure.
Shalaxi Hellbane.
That's the one, yeah. Sorry,
there is a named one.
Yeah.
I was hoping they were going to bring Nakari across.
Yeah.
And have them as the one of the.
Yeah.
The name one. But no, the new one is called Shalaxi Hellbane, which I don't know enough of.
Very new. I don't know a lot about that. I know the model is beautiful, and I know the rules are good.
Yes.
Beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, so they're the greater demons.
Yes.
Underneath it, we should talk about.
We have. We should talk about the realm. The realm is referred to as the Dark Prince's or Princess's realm, depending on which one you look at the time. Obviously, Keeper of Secrets.
Yes.
And Demon Prince of Slaanesh. Now, we will cover Demon Princes in every episode, because just in case somebody hasn't listened to the previous one, most Demon Princes, but not all, start off as mortals.
Yeah, they're pretty much all mortals.
All mortals that have impressed Slaanesh so much that they've been granted demonhood. Immortality.
Yes.
And
they become
demonhood.
a full-fledged demon.
Usually, they are generals in the armies.
They're usually second to
keepers.
To Keepers of Secrets. Or sort of around, it depends. They can lead armies depending on their individual power. Obviously, notable demon princes include Fulgrim.
Yes, Fulgrim.
The Primarch of the 3rd Legion of the Emperor's Hosts.
The Emperor's Children,
in fact.
Yes.
Yeah, he is one of the notable ones. I'm trying to think if there's any other named demon princes. I can't think of.
I can't think of any.
I think of lots of champions. I just can't think.
There's Slaanesh is a bit odd in that, like.
Oh, Azazel.
Bless you.
Sorry, Azazel was an old fantasy character.
Okay.
A demon
this
prince.
is why I didn't know this one.
Azazel was an old fantasy character that was a demon prince of Slaanesh.
Right. Do you know the story? How they became
I
a demon
just
prince?
remember the model.
Oh, okay.
It was around the time of the Champions of Chaos book, which had like loads of, because there's actually quite a lot of named Slaaneshi champions from the fantasy world.
Yeah, one of my favourites, in fact.
Yes.
We'll get to them in a minute.
But yes,
we'll do the mortals in a second when we get to them. Yeah. So now there's a bit of an error in my little thing here, because under demonic heralds it says Heralds of Zinch.
Yeah, that's
wrong.
Oh, Zinch, always messing around.
Yep, Zinch, good, well done. Yeah. But no, Herald of Slaanesh.
Yes.
They obviously, Slaanesh has their own herald.
Again, the same way as the Bloodletters have heralds. There is one character, one called the Mask of Slaanesh. Who's almost like a dark version of the Harlequins, almost.
Yeah. Now, the Mask of Slaanesh is really important because in a lot of stories recently, the Mask has been the one to goad various demons of Khorne, like bloodthirsters or princes or whatever, into doing certain things that will benefit Slaanesh under the guise of benefiting whoever they are tricking at the time. And the Mask has turned up a lot in recent 40k lore. And I only know this because I keep thinking to myself, well, what's the name of it then? And then I realised it was the Mask of Slaanesh was the title.
Yes.
And it pops up a lot.
This is Masque.
Yes.
Which is another term for
dancer, I believe, yeah.
I believe. It's not Mask.
No, it's not Mask, it's Masque of Slaanesh.
I believe that's what the word mask means.
Yes.
It's like a masquerade ball.
Yeah, it's the mask part of a masquerade ball. Yes. But yeah, the Mask of Slaanesh turns up and does loads of stuff recently. Well, I say recently, in the last 1,000 years. 40k time, not ours.
It's kind of probably going yoo-hoo, stuff happens.
Yeah, well, there is a moment, and it's to do with an Eldar webway gate that's locked. And the Mask wants to get through it, so tricks a bloodthirster
running at it
to basically to get through it, and then essentially lets it be known to the Bloodthirster through something else that the mask has tricked the Bloodthirster, and so sits atop the webway portal where the big shiny thing is that's locking the mask out. And of course the Bloodthirster's like, I'm going to end you! Takes a huge, enormous swing with a double battle axe, and just at the last second, the mask just goes whoop, and he hits the covering, smashes the thing apart, and then they can go through the webway.
So, as an interesting side to the term mask,
yes,
MASQUE, it's a term that comes from the mid 16th century, from the French mask, Italian maschera or mascara, medieval Latin masca, which was to mean witch or spectre, as well as influenced by the Arabic mascara, which means buffoon.
Means buffoon.
That's going to be some fuel there.
Got a good one there.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of like I said, it's almost like a dark, looking at a dark, witchy kind of
amalgamated to become like a witch or spectre that also kind of makes a bit of a fool of themselves.
Yeah, that
makes a lot of sense. That works. Yeah, I like that. That's very good.
The most prominent definition of the word mask is a covering for all or part of the face, one as a disguise, or to amuse or frighten others.
Also fitting.
Yes.
Yeah, and also I believe the mask of Slaanesh...
It does have a double-ended hole with like the classic. I think it's like a demonic take on the old tragedy.
Tragedy and...
What is it?
Joy.
You think of the two. We need to go
comedy and tragedy.
Thank you. Comedy and tragedy. The two masks you see on like old-timey movie things in theatres. So it's kind of a shorthand like picture for theatre, isn't it? It's the comedy tragedy mask.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's
that's the mask. Lesser demons, we have demonettes.
Yes, these are
booby demons.
Booby demons. Yeah, they are primarily female, but again, that's
the top half.
But also saying they're primarily female. Yeah, I think that's mostly because the audience mostly for fantasy and stuff is male.
Yep.
But I feel like if they were to come up say against a bunch of, let's say, heterosexual sisters of battle, I'm going to make that determination that they are heterosexual sisters of battle, that they may say appear more masculine than feminine.
Yeah, they are...
They're sex demons. There's
demons.
Nowhere around it. They're incubi, they're succubi. They usually, the main version that we see as model is usually a lithe creature, sort of cloven hooves. They have two massive pincer-like hands. They used to be like proper full-on crab claws back in the day, but they're now more lithe and longer.
Long stabby things.
They tend to have a number of boobs.
Yep.
Not the usual two. Sometimes 6. Sometimes odd numbers.
Yep.
This is the thing. This is one of the defining characteristics of Slaanesh models is they have a bunch of boobs.
Yep.
It's just one of those.
And if they would show penises, it would probably have multiple.
Yeah, I always find it really funny that it used to be like in the old RPG for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, there was a book called it was basically for the gods of chaos. Total Corruption, that was what it was called, and you could get specific demonic mutations. And on the Slaanesh table, I always remember this. On the Slaanesh table, one of them is you grow a boob. If you are a man, it says if you are male, if your character is male, you grow a boob. If you are a female character, you get 3 boobs all down one side.
Well,
there you go. Random, yeah. But anyway, like you say, these days, more days, it would be also other things.
It'd be appendages.
Yes.
Sexual appendages.
Yeah, so that's the demonettes. They're basic...
sex demons.
Sex demons. Yeah. And they kind of form the backbone of a lot of other types of demonic unit.
Yeah. So, now the next one I don't know anything about, and I don't know if you do either. It's the lesser demons, Lady of the Voids. You heard of this one? I've not heard of that one.
To be honest,
that's a new one on me.
It might be a bit like a Will-o'-the-Wisp, but with boobs.
Probably.
Sounds like roughly what.
Many penises, probably boobs, and maybe claws.
Indeed.
The Ruination of Imperfect Beauty. You heard of that one?
No. These are very old.
They must be. They're very new. It
might be another named Herald.
Yeah, it's under the Lesser Demons one, but this one has proved to be wrong with the keeper with the fucking Zinch. So not sure, but if anybody knows about them, let us know. I could click the link, but we're going to go on.
These are like very small. These might be box outs and something I've missed.
Yeah, there might be box
outs.
I
know the major overall. Also, like Slaanesh, it's always been one of my least favourite.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I think it's very hard to do Slaanesh PG. Like if we were to go into this in a non-PG fashion, this would be much easier because we are skirting around a lot of issues that we could.
Despite our discussion of boobs.
Yeah.
Well, I think.
But we are keeping it as PG as possible. Slaanesh, I find to be the most difficult because literally they are the god of sex, pleasure, drugs, and rock and roll, and you can't really discuss these things in excess.
I'd also argue like they're also the hardest one to talk about in the context of the real world.
Yeah,
because
you do.
Let's be honest, a lot of us have flirted with Slaanesh over the years.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, it's so of all four of the Chaos Gods, I would argue, apart from maybe Khorne, Slaanesh is the easiest one.
I think Slaanesh is currently in ascendancy.
I would say Slaanesh is ascendant in our modern...
Yeah.
I don't want to use the term first word, but our modern, like, Western world.
Yeah.
Where, there's a lot of argument about excess and like, it's easy to fall down the slopes of anything. Like, getting into... people talk about how moral depravity and all these sort of things is like... Yeah, unfortunately, this kind of it's the most relevant, and therefore it's also the most dangerous to talk about because so many people have had experiences, both bad, terrible.
Well, both you and I have had battles with addiction.
Exactly,
and addiction is a Slaaneshi trait.
Oh yes,
like if you are an addict of anything, even caffeine. Like
I said,
like
I
nicotine.
know I have. My problem is, one of the things I have is one that led me down some dark paths. Sorry to take a moment for this. Is I have an addictive personality. If I get into something, I need to do more of it.
Yeah, I'm the same.
It's why I have to be careful with things like gambling and things. It's like I can enjoy gambling to a moderate amount, but I need somebody to be there to pull me out. Yeah. Because I will, if left to my own devices, just keep going. Yeah. And it's the same with anything. Well, like even my hobby, I'm obsessed with it more than...
We are currently sat in your house surrounded by models and books and models and books.
Exactly. So,
and even that in itself, that thing with models, that is a Slaaneshi trait.
Yeah, yeah.
That is, you would be, with that addiction to little plastic men and the books and the lore and everything else, you are fueling... If we were in the 4K, that would be fueling Slaanesh.
It is one of the things that's kind of explored in... I know you're not a huge fan of it, but the novel Fulgrim kind of says that.
Yes.
With the various artists there.
Yeah.
Is that it's that need to keep pushing for perfection. It's like it would be like if I ran out of non oil and then drained someone's brake fluid to use as
that would be.
And then went, oh no, my Mephiston red has dried up. Let me just quickly I need some red. Let me just quickly
nick my palm and get some more red.
That's the right colour I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So talking about Slaanesh, the problem with it is it is the most relevant to our everyday lives and the dangers of chaos in general.
Yeah.
So it's a bit too close to home for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think like the reason that I am not a fan of Slaanesh as one of the Chaos Gods, whereas the other three, you can talk about the relevancy of them and not cause anybody any harm, really.
Yeah, in an abstract kind of way.
Slaanesh, you can cause someone tremendous amounts of harm simply by referencing some of the things that Slaanesh is responsible for or involved in or brings you to Slaanesh.
Yes.
And when in Age of Sigmar they had imprisoned Slaanesh, I thought, they've taken the god out.
There was a lot of people talking about how, they're going to, obviously we haven't seen much of the Emperor's Children in 40k either. And a lot of people going, they removed Slaanesh entirely.
Yeah.
I think they went away and kind of had a bit of a rethink and kind of, I think they've tried to move the law a little bit away from explicitly.
Yeah, I think it's very hard from a podcaster point of view, from our point of view. You can't discuss this stuff with really any levity. It's quite to do it like you do it an injustice to all the people who have suffered with the things that Slaanesh is about. Yeah, by bringing too much levity and making light of it, you take a lot of that away from them, and it's not really...
We can make levity of some of the idiots in the 40k universe, and Phantom universe who have followed Slaanesh, like Fulgrim the Ultimate Failure.
Yes, which we're going to come to lighten the mood a little bit.
But well, moving on to the rest of the demons.
Yeah, so the last one of the lesser is Seeker of Slaanesh, which is a mount, I believe.
Well, no, the Seeker itself is what the units referred to as Seekers are demonettes mounted on steeds of Slaanesh.
Okay.
Which are one form of the steed of Slaanesh, which is kind of a weird... They are bipedal, but they're like long... If you imagine...
They're very lizardy, right?
They're sort of lizardy, but also kind of slightly...
Horsey?
Yeah, they're of everything.
Yeah,
they've got very long heads with a round...
Anteater.
Anteater, sort of. They're sort of anteater heads on a kind of an ostrich-like body with no feathers, because they've only got two legs.
With claws?
No, they've just
got
they
got
two
the
legs.
legs.
On the floor. This is the thing. The Seeker mounts are just
I see.
two-legged versions. They're like they've just got a long tail. So think of a Velociraptor.
Yes.
With the head without the forearms, but with the head of an anteater. He's kind of...
That looks a bit like an ostrich.
Yes, so that's roughly what seekers are. They're incredibly fast, swift, light.
If anybody worked out what that looked like from just our descriptions, well done. If anybody can draw that and send it...
I'm really hoping you're not going to be traumatised at night, like while you're lying awake thinking about this creature.
If anybody could draw what we just described and send us a picture of it, that would be fantastic.
That would, yes.
The next one is the Fiend of Slaanesh.
Right, so the Fiend of Slaanesh is kind of... You take the basic... They still have a similar head and body shape to the Mountain of Slaanesh, but they usually have 6 limbs. They have 4 legs, 2 of which are backwards.
Yes.
So 2 of them, the ones with rear legs point
the wrong way.
The feet point backwards.
Right.
And then the front 2, the feet point forwards. And then they have 2 massive crab claw type things.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they are.
So then the Steed of Slaanesh.
Yeah, so these is again, we talk like this is more of an evolved version. This is what we jokingly used to refer to as the nipple snake.
Yes.
Because it's like a long snake thing, but with the anteater style head that all Slaaneshi sort of beasts have.
Yeah.
But it also has a large amount of boobs.
Yeah. Much boobage.
Yes, this is like the model classic models for things like the Lord of Slaanesh on steed. Yeah, that's the sort of demonic steed that you can be granted by Slaanesh.
Yeah. So the next, that's the last of them. That covers all of them. The demonic legion is referred to as the legions of excess.
Yes.
The traitor legion, as we've already mentioned, is the third legion, the Emperor's Children.
Indeed.
Who is the Primarch of which is Fulgrim, the ever failing.
Which, in the Hoare's heresy, it always makes me laugh so much that everything Fulgrim is asked to do, he fails at completely.
Yep.
It just, like, my favourite example is when, in the book Rachel Spirit, like, Horus is like, okay, so, there's this planet Molech, it has a night household on it, they're like 98.5% pretty much Slaaneshi cultists already. They're doing horrible stuff to each other. This is what they believe in. What I need you to do, they have this prophecy of this thing called the White Naga, which is like some sort of serpentine thing with white hair, which is basically what you look like as a demon prince. You have like a bottom half of a snake. You've got this long flowing white hair. We're like, you fit the prophecy. If you just go down there and be all like, hey, it is I, the White Naga, we reckon it will tip them over the edge and they'll come and join our side. And Fulgrim's like, I got this, bro. And he's like, you really don't, because you never have anything like this. And he goes down there, and the guy who's running the house, he's got his night suit, and he comes into this clearing, and Fulgrim's like, 'tis I, the White Naga, I am here to fulfill the prophecies. And the guy's like, oh, sweet mother of God, what the fuck? And then just shoots him with his gun and sort of runs away, and it's just like, this just proves every time Fulgrim is asked to do something in the heresy, he fucks it up. Like, at the Siege of Terror is brilliant. He ends up in a one-on-one duel with Rogel Dawn, but he appears human. So he appears like his normal self, right? So Rogel Dawn beats the piss out of him, and then Fulgrim's like, fuck you then. Transforms into his massive like demon snake form and goes, I'm not going to play anymore. And decides to take his legion away from the Emperor's palace and just go ravage the rest of Terror. He literally just packs up, takes his toys and goes home because he decided to fight Rogel Dawn with one arm tied behind his back, and then lost, and then got salty about it. It's just, Fulgrim's an idiot.
Yep. Well done, Fulgrim. I have a thing. I have a thing for Fulgrim. No, that's the wrong wording. I actually quite like Fulgrim. Now, not for the reasons you just mentioned, but for in the Mirror Cracked and before the Mirror Cracked was a thing. So, for those of you who don't know, when Fulgrim picked up the sword,
the layer sword,
the layer blade, I think it's and he was then possessed by a demon.
Yes.
And it swapped.
When he fought his brother Ferrus Manus, they were both really, really close to each other on his fan, and he couldn't bring himself to strike the final blow. So the demon was like, haha, moment of weakness, took over the body, decapitated Ferrus Manus, and was like, I'm in charge now.
Yeah. So now you've got essentially Fulgrim's body possessed by a demon.
Yes.
But Fulgrim's soul is, I believe, at that point, in a painting of himself.
Yeah, very Dorian Gray.
Very Dorian Gray type thing. Now, I thought that this was wonderful. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And I was like, so...
Because he has his meeting with Horus, where he meets Horus, and he basically gifts Ferris's head to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're not Fulgrim. And he's like, oh, you noticed, did you?
Yeah.
And Horus is like, I don't know how long it takes, or what I have to do, but I will free my brother from your grasp. And that was always the old story.
Yeah. So now...
Of like, that's why Fulgrim just is who he is.
Yeah, so I quite liked this story, and I thought what a wonderful idea going forward it would be that actually, very Dorian Gray-like, the demon prince, the demon Primarch that is Fulgrim, actually isn't Fulgrim.
No.
And there is, in a painting somewhere, the soul of what would be, once again, because he has noticed at the point where he couldn't kill Ferrus Manus, he went, oh, this has gone too far. I realised
It's almost the moment where he went, oh shit.
Oh shit, no, I realised.
What have I wrought?
Yeah, what have I done? And then you could have, because there is, wandering around, I think, Trazyn might have it, the clone of Fulgrim.
Yes, a loyalist clone.
A loyalist clone of Fulgrim who, and I thought, how wonderful would it be if this clone of Fulgrim
could find the painting,
and reunite this soul, and you could have a redeemed Fulgrim and the demon Primarch Fulgrim. So you have the Emperor's children with Fabius Bile, Fabulous Bile, Fabulous Bill, and his machinations, and you have Lucius the Eternal.
Yeah, he's also part of that.
He's part of that sort of thing, and all their Slaaneshi
knob ends
that follow Slaanesh.
Because in the Heresy, a lot of the characters of the Emperor's children are portrayed as absolute twatbags.
Yeah, and then you've got the loyalist Fulgrim who goes to the Belisarius Call and goes, listen, I know that you have used my gene seed to make Primaris Marines, which we know, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, he has done. And he says, I am loyal, but if I go back right now to my brother and say, hey, I'm here, he's not going to believe me. But if you give me some Space Marines,
and then I can crusade and basically
I can prove to my brother by... Brothers at this point, but at the time brother, that I can fix what I did wrong.
Yeah.
I can make amends, and they will trust me again, and we can become brothers again.
Yeah.
We can do that.
That would have been
amazing. And Cole would 100% have done that.
He's like, totally, take him,
let's go.
Paint the pink. Technically, this is not my fault, legally speaking.
Yeah. I signed a thing that said I would never do this, and I would never do this.
I did not.
And I did not. That's entirely on him.
Yeah, it's funny how he's been unlocked the vault and everything.
Yeah, look, I didn't do any of this.
Yeah.
And then Games Workshop ruined it
Yeah.
By producing a short story called The Mirror Cracked, which is, or The Reflection Cracked, or something like that, where Fulgrim essentially got his body back.
They basically tortured the rest of the command staff of the Legion were like, this is not our father.
Yeah.
We're going to basically kidnap him and torture the shit out of him and force the demon to let go. Basically, they're going to sort of semi-exorcism, sort of, just sort of thing. And they do it, and then all of a sudden Fulgrim's like, oh no, I'm in charge all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not even explained why or how. It's just,
nothing.
Actually, no, we want Fulgrim to be the one in charge, so he can continue to be a complete and utter bell-end failure. Maybe that's what it was. The demon was just too competent.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. But whatever it was, it's the something cracked, the mirror cracked. I was it was, but it could be the reflection.
I think it's reflection cracked
or something.
It's in the novel. I want to say it's in the Primarchs.
Yes,
novel.
I think
one of the early anthologies books contained
and that
the one about Omegon and one about Lionel Johnson and one about
and that ruined it.
Yeah, I agree.
Basically, you could have had a really cool box set with nothing but Emperor's Children of both sides.
Yeah,
and I think that would have sold like buggery. And you could take away the Slaanesh issue that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Have Slaaneshi forces that are the Emperor's children.
I think the 40k, with the exception of the stuff that's noted in the Heresy stuff, which was a lot darker and a lot more the kind of Slaaneshi stuff that we said was difficult to talk about. A lot of the sort of the stuff that's always been the forefront of the Emperor's Children has been less problematic.
Yes, yeah.
So like their iconic troop type is the Noise Marine.
Yeah.
Which literally originally have these weird guitar-looking things and massive backpacks and speakers on. Because their whole point is they're the rock and roll technique.
Rock and roll.
They use music that's so how if you're old like us, the music the kids are listening to just sounds like horrible noise, and it feels like an attack on your ears.
Yeah,
this is literally it. This is so far beyond the music what the kids are listening to.
Yeah.
That it's just like only these noise marines think that this sounds good.
Yeah.
But it's so damaging that the sound can actually kill people.
Yeah, and that
I really enjoy. I always liked the noise marines.
Yeah.
As a concept, and I am really looking forward to seeing where they go, because it will inevitably do. They are the last one left now.
They are the last one left. They haven't done
of the four major powered.
Yeah, because the Death Guard got their due. We'll talk about them later. The World Eaters have just had theirs, and Angron and the Thousand Sons were 8th edition when Magnus came back.
Yeah.
awesome. Love Magnus. But anyway, so that's.
I think the 40k characters are much more interesting. Because there are three. We're talking about Fulgrim, but there are two other major characters that come from the Emperor's Children that are really, really important.
Yes.
One actually wraps back round to the Eldar and the Dark Eldar. So the first one is Lucius the Eternal.
The swordsman. The swordsmaster.
So the swordmaster, who's got this horribly scarred face, because reasons he explained in the Heresy novel, but his whole thing is he's one of the greatest swordsmen alive. But if you kill him, his whole gimmick is he has this armour that appears to have all these faces inside it. And it's called the Armour of Shrieking Souls. And the reason it's covered in all his faces is because anybody who kills him, if you take even an iota of pride in having beaten him, you eventually turn into Lucius. So he effectively spawns out through you, and you just become, your soul gets trapped in his armour and becomes another face on it.
There have been, I believe, 2 people, maybe 3, that have killed Lucius and not had that happen to them.
The one I know of is Sharakeen
of the Raven Guard.
Because he literally kills him and says, I take no pleasure in this.
Yeah,
he just does what has to be done.
Because he was his friend, right? I
don't know. I think he just was... Sharakeen's just a freaking ninja. He's one of the fan favourite heresy characters from the Shattered Legions. He's just he's an absolute freaking awesome swordsman ninja.
And there is another one, and I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
And there may have been a third, but both of them that I know for certain happened. Yeah. Slaanesh themselves resurrected Lucius. Yes. But they are the only 2, and Sharakeen is the most famous of them. Yes. And I've read that fight. It took place actually at Fulgrim's ascension to demonhood.
So,
they're following them. Sharakeen kills Lucius. Yeah. And he mortally wounded crawls back to the flagship, where he crawls to the apothecarium, and Fabius Bile is waiting, and Lucius takes one look at him and goes, "Don't touch me," and dies. Yeah. He would rather die than have Fabius
that brings
touch
us
him.
On lovely segue to Fabius Bile.
Yeah.
Fabulous Bill, who is responsible for an inordinate amount of fuckery
in
40k.
So much.
So the thing is, he started life as the chief apothecary for the 3rd Legion, and he's one of those people, a bit like Magnus, of those people who just kind of, again, didn't really understand limits to things, and wanted to keep trying horrible things. Again, this touched on some darkish kind of real world history, but he is several of those sort of boogeymen.
So he, as far as my recollection of Fabius, he was the chief. He was an apothecary. He wasn't a chief apothecary at the time. The 3rd Legion, the Emperor's Children, were suffering from the blight, which was ravishing their numbers. Was ravaging their numbers, and basically it was a corruption in the gene seed. Yeah, and they were having to sort of cull their own legion because of this. Because it was corrupting the gene seed, and try to only keep gene seed that was relevant, and that is he produced the thing.
That's where he comes from. He fixes the gene seed.
No. So he produces the thing that removes gene seed.
The reductor.
The reductor, so that when a perfect gene seed marine dies, they can take that out and make a new marine with it, and they call the others, and it turns out that he has the corrupted gene seed, and they haven't got Fulgrim back yet, and he swaps his results because he does the test. He creates the test. Yeah. And he swaps his with a perfect marine's results. The marine is culled. He survives, and his whole goal was to keep himself alive to find a cure. But then they found Fulgrim. And they've got the Primarch's DNA now, so they don't need that anymore. Yeah. They can use the untainted version from Fulgrim. And obviously this is a problem for Fabius because he's still suffering and going to die. So he starts experimenting on himself, on gene seed, on space marines that are injured. Hence Lucius is like, you aren't getting me. I would rather die than end up on your table. And he does a lot, and that then progresses through to modern era.
Well, it's where he starts, like in the Heresy, he starts giving people like the Dooms the Whale, like he gives Eidolon.
Eidolon the Doom Whale.
He also helps resurrect Eidolon from when he has his head cut off.
Yes.
And stuff like that,
All of that is...
One of his most famous things is when the Emperor's Children fight the Legion Wars, because they're the most numerous, because they fuck off.
They abandon ship.
They are the most powerful Legion when they all retreat to the Isle of Terror. So they take over for a while. and they're the ones that capture Horus's body, and it's so that Fabius Bile can clone the various Primarchs, and he actually does clone Horus.
Yep.
And it's Abaddon ends up killing him, but that's one of his famous things that he does. He then becomes known as the Primogenitor because he basically he goes off and actually, this is where I said it comes back round, is he ends up going and learning from the homunculi of Kamara. This is why when they later evolved the homunculi designs with their flesh coats, like lab coats that look a bit like flesh made from flesh, this is kind of echoing the design of Fabius Bile from 2nd edition. Is the whole idea is that that they wanted to tie the two together to be like, no, he learned a lot from them. He's messed up so many people and so many things,
so many planets,
all sorts of things because he's just he thinks he's better than. He thinks he knows better than everybody. He's very much one of those. He's like, well, I can improve everything.
He is a very, very dangerous person.
But because of that, he thinks he's smarter than everyone else.
Yeah.
And he's made a lot of awful abominations on the way. But he's also one of the most valuable Marines alive to the Territory Marines because he tends to be responsible for helping them recreate gene seed and things because that's how they.
He's
sustaining themselves.
Yeah, the reason why there are so many still Chaos Space Marines that come out of the Eye of Terror are not just renegade Marines like the Astral Claws is that he is the one responsible for gifting them more Marines, essentially.
They kind of lost, a lot of them have lost the ability to take care of gene seed and stuff and make sure it's relatively pure. So that's how he's been allowed to maintain his existence. Because he's pissed off pretty much everybody at this point, but he's also too valuable to let die. It's one of the things they've hinted at that they're like a backdoor of being able to give Chaos Marines Primaris is that he's gotten hold of some corpses. So he will figure it out. At some point there will be Chaos Primaris Marines because Fabulous Bile will figure out how to do it.
And it's also super relevant that the original Chaos Space Marines don't necessarily like the new ones. No. So like Abaddon, for example, he is not a fan of new Chaos Space Marines. He knows he needs them because he needs the numbers, but
you weren't there.
You weren't there. You are not a veteran of the Long War. And I think it will be very telling when we do get Primaris Chaos Space Marines, which I think will happen in the next sort of 5 years, that they will not have that tag. No. Because that tag, the veteran of the Long War, is a specific tag to things like the Black Legion.
But even the Black Legion is made up of like Abaddon. I think it's more of a kind of because a lot of his sub-commanders are former Space Marines that have turned traitor and things like that. So he understands everyone is welcome in the Black Legion if you pledge to Abaddon, like literally, because he says it to Huron Blackheart at some point. He's like, I'll happily give you control of my fleet the moment you bend the knee. And Huron's like, nah, I'm good, mate.
I'm a lot of things, but I ain't bowing to you.
This comes across really well, like I said, in the Pandarax novel. You get to see a lot of the kind of, because you get, I can't remember what his name is, his first name is, but he's like Iron Grasp. He was like a former, not son of Gilliman, it's one of the Ultramarine successors. He's like, at the point of the Battle of Pandarax, he is the current fleet master for the Black Legion.
Right.
When you get to see a lot of him in that, and it's it's a lot of you get to see a lot more of the.
I've listened to the Pandorax Incursion, and I've also listened to the Badab War recently. And the Pandorax Incursion is interesting because the numbers of ships that they pertain to exist within this particular incursion is quite entertaining because it's quite large. Might be a few too many ships. Maybe scale up.
It's a massive fleet gauge. That's the whole point.
It is big, but it's a bit too big.
I like the bit when the Rock just turns up.
Yes.
The Dark Age. Obviously, I'm a Dark Age fan, but it is cool when the Rock just appears in the middle of this, and then teleports the Deathwing onto the flagship that's been collided with an asteroid. There's a really cool artwork as well, where you can see Deathwing Terminators fighting demons across a sort of asteroid, which is pretty sweet. But the whole book is really brilliant. It gives you a lot more breakdown. But coming back around to the Emperor's Children. Fabius Bile, incredibly important, but he's no longer really an Emperor's Children. He's very much his own faction. In fact, there've been various iterations of the game where he's had his own, like Bile's creations.
They exist.
Specifically a separate faction. He's an independent person apart from the Legion. But what led him down that road is the same flaw that led the Emperor's Children to fall in the first place. Is that search for and belief in their own superiority, really.
He takes it to a whole other level.
He's definitely he's probably one of Slaanesh's favourites. If he would let himself accept that, but he's not overtly a Slaanesh champion. But Slaanesh is I see what you're doing, mate.
So there is a couple more that I want to talk about, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
So the fantasy ones.
Oh yes.
Because the fantasy ones are one of them in particular is my favourite.
Are you talking about the arseless chaps?
I am indeed. But there are others, and I want you to start with those ones if you can remember them.
So I'm trying to remember. So the one I can remember off the top of my head right now is T'Challa the Denied One.
Right.
She's some sort of demon mortal champion of Slaanesh. She was like the original like Medusa looking. She's got like four swords, like from back and forth.
Yeah, I remember that.
Got 4 swords, a serpentine body. T'Challa Denied One.
And then you have Marathi, obviously.
Who's
quite a big. Marathi also actually one of my very favourite of Slaaneshi-esque characters because of the very special way that she is. I am a follower of Korn. Cain. Sorry, I'm a follower of Cain.
Yeah.
And look at all these things that I do for Slaanesh. I mean Korn.
But if you reach this level of being in my circle, you'll realise it's all about the tits and the drugs.
Yeah. So I quite like Marathi's managed to subvert...
again, another pivotal, creepy-ass character when you really start getting into her story.
And proper mummy as well.
We're not going to go into that at all. Again.
But mother, I should be king!
No, yes.
Yes, just put on this armour.
Hush, darling.
Hush, darling.
Put your head in mummy's boobs.
Yeah.
It's like...
all 7 of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, and that brings us to probably the most famous of the mortal champions from the fantasy realms. He of the assless chaps, Sigvald the Magnificent. Yes.
Sigvald the Magnificent was a knight in service of Sigmar. He was originally a champion of the light. However, he was martially undefeated.
Yes.
And this led him down the path to finding, very much like Lucius actually, finding opponents to beat.
Yeah.
And when they could not, he took a very deep pride in his martial prowess.
Yes.
So much so that he stopped wearing armour on very specific parts of his body because he didn't think he would ever be marked. And he is, to this day, completely scar-free, unlike Lucius, who scars himself when he kills
there's a whole thing with the story because Loken breaks his nose in a fight, which is quite funny.
Yeah, it's Sigvald makes his way north, fighting against the forces of chaos.
Because obviously they're the most powerful challenge.
They are the biggest challenge to him, where he eventually finds that he's getting a bit cold and would like quite to be warm.
Yes.
And he starts, rather than losing in battle, which is what he wants to do, find the opponent to beat him, which is his goal, he starts to freeze to death.
Yeah.
When a voice from nowhere reaches to him and says, "But you can be forever perfect and forever undefeated, if only you follow my advice."
Yes.
And of course, this voice is Slaanesh, and a great story later of Sigvald the Magnificent leading many armies against.
I always like the thing I like most about Sigvald is he had in his early iterations because he had the mirrored shields, didn't he?
Yes, he has a mirrored shield.
Because the problem is that he believes in his own hype so much now that he's very much it's the story of Narcissus, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Greek mythology.
Yeah.
That, he had the stupidity rule in older versions of the game because there was a chance that as he was striding forward into battle, he would catch his own reflection in his mirrored shield and be like, "Damn, I look good." Yeah. And then to be there going, "Oh, yes." As it'd be like fighting down around, it's like, just a minute.
Just got to make sure the hair is fine.
Yeah.
Now, I, as you know, am a big fan of Warhammer Total War.
Yes.
And in Warhammer Total War, the worst general that you can take into battle, if you exclude the trolls, is Sigvald. And the reason for this is that Sigvald takes experience away from his units of all the armies that he is in command of.
Yeah.
Because he is the one who deserves the praise, not them.
Well, that makes sense.
Yes. And he does not benefit his armies in any way, shape or form.
Except for the fact that he's really good at murdering people.
Yeah. And he, unfortunately, in Warhammer Total War, they didn't make him particularly good at that either. But he should be very good at that. He should be a good duelist. In fact, he should be the duelist on a par with Snitch of the Skaven, who's an assassin. However, he is not. But in Warhammer Total War, it is amusing that he is one of the worst generals simply because he grants no bonuses at all to his armies. It's how bad a general he was. And realistically, he won battles simply by virtue of the fact that he was so good at what he did that people would run away. But yeah, so Sigvald the Magnificent, the current model, obviously we can't show it you because we're not visual at the moment. We will be.
He literally has assless chaps.
He has assless chaps, which is amazing. And the antithesis of anything remotely resembling good taste is Sigvald the Magnificent. He's by far my favourite, and I wish he was better in Warhammer so I could actually play him as a general, but he's actually terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, that brings us to the close of Slaanesh. As we said at the start, if we have caused anybody any upset, we do apologise. We did try our very best not to, just because of the nature of what Slaanesh is. It is very difficult to talk about. So, ladies and gentlemen, please like, share, comment and subscribe. Ring the little bell and all that sort of stuff if you're on YouTube. It is appreciated. We would like to greet and say goodbye to our viewers around the world, our listeners around the world. We have more Americans have joined us. We are now up to 6%. Howdy to you all.
I can actually tell you now where they are.
Oh, go on. We'll have this and then we'll call it a day.
We know where you are.
We know where you are. Yes. We're still
where you pertain to be from.
We do have still 100% listenership on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
We have yet to make it to Mars.
Still cracking. It's still not interplanetary.
We're not interplanetary just yet.
So, we actually have 2 different listeners in America.
Oh.
So, in America, 50% of our listenership is from Virginia.
Ooh. Oh.
And 50%...
A big gaming state.
Yeah. And
50% of our listenership is from Texas.
Hey!
So howdy was the correct one.
And I don't know what the greeting in Virginia is, but hello.
Get off my property.
Get off my property. I don't know.
I
have no idea.
No,
Take
thank
me
you for
home,
listening.
country roads?
Take me home, country roads, yeah.
That's West Virginia.
West Virginia specifically, but yes, I'm sorry about that gag. But yeah, anyway, where else are we currently? I know we're in the Philippines still, so...
We are still in the Philippines. Yeah. Right, so I'll give you a quick rundown.
Yeah, if you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe. We do appreciate it. A lot of you are not, and we would appreciate it if you did.
Yes.
Right, so 68% UK.
Yeah.
12% Australia.
Good day.
Good day. Yep.
11% Philippines.
Hello.
Can't remember.
6% United States.
Howdy.
3% Canada.
Hey.
Less than 1% Poland.
No, not even going to try.
No.
Hello, our one Polish listener. Yeah. Hello. Specifically.
Less than 1% from Italy.
Buongiorno.
Hey, we got that one.
Not even a funny one.
No, not even a funny one, that one. But there's... Well, thank you, listener, in Italy. We appreciate that. If any of you want to leave a comment with a question, we have a questions and answers coming up.
Yes.
We would appreciate it. But for now, it is good night from me.
It's goodbye from him.
And it's good night from her.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.